Hello friends, how are you? I hope all are well, wherever you are. Welcome back to my channel. The last video we did about the functions, like how to create the simple functions, how to create the function with arguments, and the function with the return. I was thinking to add some more on the functions, regarding functions, So in this video we'll do a couple of more examples, and we'll go through it. So let's do another file. We'll save it. Now, in this video, what we'll do, we need to make sure that the functions with the arguments, when you call them, it has to be in order. And also you can create the function with keywords with argument, like default values. You can pass the default value when you create the functions, so we'll just create an example. Let's see. You know how to create the function. So first the def keyword. So we put the name of the function, writing parentheses, and then colon. And indentation is very important, functions, whenever writing functions. So okay, we'll pass the argument, which is let's say name, and then pass the message print. So what we'll do, last time we did the parsing sign with the string value, passing the formatting the comments and stuff, and now this time we will do another way, like a f with the f, formatting the function, the message, so the first the name, and second parameters, which is greeting. So what we'll do, we'll just call that functions, So we'll pass the two there's a two arguments. So the first argument, we pass the string, so the second arguments, you can pass the message, let's say morning. Now, so if you just run this, you can see Mohammed, good morning. So this is and you can change, the names and stuff, when you're calling the functions. So you can, whatever you can put this in here, so it will print out. Another thing we can do, which is we can pass the default values when you are declaring the arguments, which will be, let's say, we'll just copy these functions. So the name, and the greetings, you can pass as well. Morning, and then you can call them the functions again. So just the name and then greetings. So if you just run this, and to call them functions. So just call the functions again. Now as you can see, the first functions, this greeting, which is in here, and the second function we pass the default message, so which is showing. But we just change here, let's see, good night. So you can see the difference. So this is the second with the default argument message, and without default, you can pass. Now what we'll do the next, and another thing very important, if you put say arguments, there's two arguments. When you calling the functions, there has to be two arguments you have to pass. If you pass this to one argument, this will not work. So just throwing in here, let's say, let's copy this one, and so if we just to one only, and if you just call this this function again, if you call returns and just passing the name, it's not going to work. So just close this one, Control F4 Windows, run this mess. So you see the greeting is missing one record positional argument, so we pass only one there, but you need to pass two argument the message. So make sure you always pass the number of arguments when the functions, it has to match it when you're calling the functions, so make sure you do this. And what else we can do? Another very important is when you create the functions, for within the functions arguments, passing the arguments, never use the list, which is mutable types, so we will go through in the advanced series, more about the list, but make sure you never use empty list when within the functions argument, you will find out more on the advanced series, and another thing, you can follow the standard rules, when you create the functions, make sure put the function name, what it does, let's say you are adding two numbers, so you put the function name adding two numbers, or if you want, let's say greeting, put the function name as a greeting, so it can give you the impression, what this function does, which is very important, and then what else we can do? which we talked about in earlier, like a naming convention, like what else we can do in the functions. Right, another very important thing is the function scope, like let's say we created functions. Just what you do. Python versions. So going to show the example of the function scope, like so we just create a variable. Python version which I'm using is excuse me 3.9, which is the variable within the function, its scope, like and so we'll okay. For let's put the curly brace, so passing this variable in here. Next thing what you can do, we call this functions. So just write copy lazy program, let's copy and paste excuse me. Now if you I'm just going to mute this comment out. Now when you run this program, now we can see Python version inside the function, which is 3.9. so this variable, it will work within these functions, like let's say you want and I'll showing the example, like the variable scope, like within the functions, like let's say if you want outside the functions, like you want to see, like how it works, like so if you just try to print so if you outside the function, if you call that variable, if you call that variable, it's not going to work. You see the undefined name Python versions, because that variable is inside these functions, like so it's not gonna work. If you try to run, you see the name here, or Python version is not defined, so which is very important to remember, like this variable will only work within these functions. It's not going to work like outside the functions, like so make sure you always follow this and you remember this. And what else you can talk about the functions, regarding functions. Um, so another thing, when you create the functions, there's a constant as well, like and the functions can be changed, their values and things like. But when you use the constant, like they're fixed. So you can put the constant on the top of the functions, like when we'll do the example, like when you create the project, like we'll show you, like how to do this, like how to declare constant, and what is the um yes, what is the naming convention, like normally constant we write the capital letters, and the with the underscore, like and and variables we write with the small letter with the underscore, like so just to remember this. um what else we can go through the functions? Yeah, very important, the practice makes a man perfect, like so the more you practice, the more idea will develop, more you will learn more, like so very important, you can do practice and practice, like so I hope you enjoy, like and please do subscribe to my channel, and please let me know, like where I'm going wrong, and it will encourage me, like to correct myself, and and hopefully we'll continue, like advanced series and machine learning, deep learning, so all this stuff, like so please do subscribe my channels, and see you in the next video. Thanks, bye bye.